Greetings, Tauva. I've got a very special episode for you today. What I'm going to be talking about is my new list concept that I took to the Goonhammer Open 2024 that was held in March in Leicester. Now, I'd attended this event. It was my first one after the LVO. I think I earned a little bit of a break from LVO. For those of you who don't know, my name's Kyle Grundy. I run the Puretide Program, and I finished top Tau in last ITC season, and I also made it through to the top cut 16 out of nearly like 900 to 1,000 players at the LVO. So I decided I wanted something new. I wanted to practice with units that maybe have not seen the light of day for a while, and I wanted to kind of really provide a different concept than people are expecting Tau to take. So let's dive into the actual Goonhammer Open mission pack itself, because that's going to help you understand a little bit about my choices, why I took them, and what my overall game plan was. So the key thing here is that it's a 6-round event. It's using a few missions that maybe are not seen, especially in the UK, such as the Ritual, Vital Ground. I think these are really exciting missions, and I think it's always good to have a bit of a selection rather than just the same missions over and over and over again. It keeps you on your toes, and it helps with your list construction. So if you look at the terrain rules here, there's a couple of key differences, because these are modified layouts inspired by the GW Map 4 and the GW Map 3. The key thing is all areas marked count as ruins. You treat all the windows and halls on ground level as being kind of blocked out. And I know that's slightly different when it comes to the player place terrain, but I think they've updated it as well now to say like the little vents and stuff don't count. The small areas with the large crates or walls still count as ruins for line of sight and cover purposes, but infantry, swarms and beasts cannot move through the crates or walls. The small areas marked as containing debris still count as ruins for line of sight and cover purposes, but you should treat all physical pieces of terrain on these squares as being 2 inches or less in height, meaning that all models can move over them freely as if they were not there. That's really important when you start to see some of the layouts I'm about to show you. But the key thing as well is those crates and walls, so those crates, the little small squares, are obscuring. So let's look at the map. So those small squares, the little black square here, are counted as ruins, which obscure whatever's behind. Really important to make note of that, because it blocks firing lanes. Now, GW Open layouts, I usually kind of favour broadsides, because you can come on from strat reserve, you can get quite a good firing angle on both sides of the board, same with the UKTC, but those little containers actually prevent that properly from being executed. And so it kind of made me think, maybe broadsides aren't going to be the answer to this. What is my replacement? And then if you have a look at the rest of the ruins and how they're laid out, so day 1, you've got search and destroy, so 9 inches away from the center, little half moon, and this corner here, and there in that corner, so you can hide pretty much your entire army behind this big open space here. Day 2 was, I believe it's called, day 2 you got hammer and anvil, which is obvious, it's just both sides here, down the line here, down the line there. So just offset from this big L, about 18 is about here. And then the other mission was Crucible of Battle, which is the corner point down to this point here. So again, you can get in position up here. You can still hide relatively a lot behind these 2 big ruins, and this debris is still obscuring. So just like GW, you can tuck in here and not be seen. So it's a great staging point. Day 2, you can see these small squares have just been put into more of a centralized line. Dawn of War, you had again I think they repeated it and had Crucible of Battle, Dawn of War and Sweeping Engagement. So Crucible of Battle from here to here, Sweeping Engagement from here to there, and then obviously the Dawn of War. Plenty of spaces to hide. This, if you think about Dawn of War, you hide something there, you can't be seen because this is obscuring. Whereas if it wasn't, you just have a straight firing lane all the way down. So you can see what I meant by broadsides. So let's think about my list. So I'm going to go over to the best course pairings now. Now, broadsides, I decided, you know what, I've had a lot of success with them. I've had a lot of success with crisis suits, as we all have, and I wanted to change this completely. So, there are no crisis suits in this list. 0. I suppose you could say 1, but he's a commander. The rest, no crisis suits. No broadsides. I've taken what I've done really well with and just put them on the shelf. I wanted to test a new concept and see how it can hold up in an unknown and aggressive meta, because we've just had the balanced data slate, and the two armies that I knew that were still going to be very good and a contender for podiuming was Eldari, because they've leaned into MSU, lots of firing and fade options, lots of tough things like avatars. There was even an Eldar list with a special Wraith Knight from Forge World that has a once per game teleport run by Vic VJ. You still had Guard. Now I know, by unpopular opinion, Guard are apparently not S tier, but actually they're very strong, and I agree with the Fireside Podcast team. They are incredibly strong in the hands of a very good general. Their indirect is oppressive, and they've got lots of resources in the forms of Kasakrin, Guard, Katachan Jungle Fighters, Sentinels. Any of the infantry can kind of just regenerate for 2 CP. So I wanted to try out our, wait for it, our indirect. Now you're probably thinking, you're mad. Why the hell are you taking smart missile systems? This list is basically Hammerheads, SMS. This concept I knew on paper doesn't look very good. But then when I started to think outside of the box and look at the potential of what it could do to solve some of the problems that we are facing as Tau, it actually started to make sense. So just think about that for a second as to why I potentially think smart missile systems are going to be good for Tau and in this current meta and this climate. Just hold that in the back of your thought. So let's have a look at the list. Shadow Sun as the Warlord. Lone Operative, very powerful character. Darkstrider, well, he needs no introduction, does he? He's key to my Grundy maneuver and lots of tricks and things that you can do with him, and I just love him. He's always in every list of mine. Longstrike with his Railgun. Yes, that's right, you heard it. Railgun. The one that used to ignore invuns but no longer ignores invuns. Comes with his 2 Seeker missiles and his 2 smart missile systems. Then we've got a standard XP8 commander with 4 cyclics and 2 shield drones for those extra wounds, putting him up to 7 so that he potentially doesn't kill himself if he rolls 2 1s. If I roll 3 1s, fair. Then, with the way that I design my lists, I always look at my primary first, then I look at my secondaries, and then I look at my tertiary, which is my spotting units, and sometimes they overlap with the secondary achievers. So with the layout favouring these open spaces and being able to move over the debris because it's less than 2 inches tall, I thought, great, let's get 2 to 3 breach teams in there. So I started with 3, with maybe cutting back one of them if I needed to with the rest of the list. So my breach teams are armed with the Guardian drone and the gun drone. I favour more shots. The extra wounds, pointless for me. I just like the extra 2 shots. It kind of synergizes quite nicely with the amount of firepower that breaches can deliver. Then I've got 2 Pathfinder teams. So they can do my actions, but they can also, more importantly, do my spotting for me. And the Pathfinders have that innate ability to be able to spot twice. So the way I've armed out my Pathfinders are 3 ion rifles over the rails. Some people say, well, why are you taking the ions over the rails? Surely the rail's better for the strength 10, the AP 4. I like more shots, and these Pathfinders can actually dish out quite a lot of shots. They'll have 9 shots on the ion, which if you overcharge become strength 8, AP 2, 2 damage, hazardous, or strength 7, 1 and 1, no hazardous. They've got the heavy keyword, so if you happen to stay still, you get the +1. But the rest of the shots, you've got 14 pulse carbine shots, you've got 4 shots from the recon drone, you've got 2 shots from the gun drone, and then you've got the semi-automatic grenade launcher on the team leader. So the recon drone allows me to infiltrate. It's really important winning that infiltration war, setting up for success, making sure that you can occupy spaces of the board early doors, and obviously use the Grundy maneuver with Dark Strider, Devilfish, Scout moving forward. And then also I could potentially put the other Pathfinder team to do the Grundy maneuver 2.0 and actually have another Devilfish scouting up the board to get into good positions. So bear that in mind. Then we look at vehicles. So with it being quite open, I thought, also, I've not really given the Ghost Keel a bit of love, and it's very, very good for its points, but people think its damage is a bit anemic. Okay, it's not quite got the punch as, say, Broadsides or Riptides, but they are very durable because they have the 2 blanks that you can do even for devastating wounds, because you do it before your save. And then you've got the Battlesuit support system, which allows you to fall back and shoot. It's toughness 8, 2+ save, and it's T8. With cover, you can potentially get it to a 1-up save, so if the enemy doesn't have ignore cover and only hits you with AP 1, you're still on a 2-up. Hits you with AP 2, you're on a 3-up. So very durable. So I took 2 of those. Then, I can't take Long Strike without a friend, right? So I took a Hammerhead gunship, again with a railgun. Comes with the stock 2 Seeker missiles, and again, smart missiles. Now we move on to the Crisis Suit replacement. So I've gone with 3 Riptides. They are so cheap. So cheap now, and to be honest with you, they don't need to be that cheap, but I'll take it. Iron Accelerator, twin smart missile system, 2 missile drones. So each Riptide is armed the same, and if you think about the damage output, you're going to have 6 shots, ignoring all hit modifiers, and the Riptides can fall back and shoot. So I've got 6 shots at strength 7, AP 2, damage 3, or strength 8, AP 3, damage 4, hazardous. Then it comes with 4 missile drone shots, which are strength hit on 5, strength 7, AP 2, 2 damage. And then the smart missile system. So 3 shots, ignoring all the modifiers, strength 5, twin linked. And I got 3 of those. Then we move on to our transports. So I've got 3 Devilfish, twin smart missiles, stock 2 Seeker missiles. Now, straight away, people will be like, hang on a minute, you're not taking the gun drones, so your Devilfishes cannot advance and do actions. That is correct. I cannot do advancing actions because I've not taken the gun drones, because none of the other guns have the assault keyword. But I did test it in a couple of games in a little league that I went to finalise Season 1 of the Carnage guys. And if you're not aware of the Carnage guys, go over to their website. The Carnage Competitive, they do some fantastic events around Yorkshire, and they're branching out. I tested having the gun drones on the Devilfish, but never advancing them to do actions, just to see if I actually needed it. And guess what? I never needed to do it. So that kind of added to the fact that actually let's just take SMS, it'd be better. So the other thing I'd like to mention about this list, on paper, you're thinking, well, alright, you've mentioned that people can't do homers very, as easy as they could on this map layout that they've modified, but what they can do is still get bring it down points. Now on paper, I have 32 bring it down points. So an opponent might go, oh well, it's Tau. I'll just take bring it down and homers. Okay, you can still do homers to some degree, but you will probably lose these assets. And bring it down, they've probably got it in the head that I'm automatically going to get 20. That's where they would be falling into my trap. Only one player managed to get 20 on Bring It Down, and that was the game that was very tight, which I'm going to be going to my games on a separate call. I'm going to be doing it with my Discord, which I'll get onto later. But okay, you've got 3 Devilfish, it's 9 points. 3 Riptides, it's another 9 points, so that's already 18. You got the XP8 Commander, that's 20. You got 2 Ghost Keels, it's 26. You got Long Strike and a Hammerhead, it's 32. But my list is stat checking people on 2 fronts. I've got 50 infantry, And then I've got multiple vehicles and monsters that are all at different profiles. Riptides, let's talk about those. They are T9, 2 up save, 4 up invulnerable save, can easily get 1 up save with cover, 14 wounds, access to stim injectors for the 6 up feel no pain. Ghost Kills, toughness 8, 2 up save, again can easily get access to a 1 up cover save. No invuln, but you got 2 blanks, and you can blank the damage before you roll a save, so if anything's devastating wound, you can still blank it. So another problem for someone to solve. Devilfish, T9, 3 up save, no invulnerable save, 13 wounds. That 13 wounds is an annoying amount of wounds to have, because damage 2, relevant, damage 3, doesn't kill it, so if you get 4 damage 3 through, you still got 1 wound left. Hammerheads, toughness 10, 14 wounds. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different profiles of vehicles for them to kind of deal with. So I'm saying to my opponent, you can get bring it down points, but when are you going to be using your pieces, and how are you going to be using your pieces? And if you deal with, let's just say, Ghost Keel, brilliant, my Riptides will deal with you. If you deal with a Riptide, my Hammerheads will then deal with you. So it's very cleverly designed around forcing the opponent to use their assets in multiple places because of the multiple different stat checks that I'm presenting to them. So that's the list. Let's talk about the SMS a little bit, because that's what people want to hear about. They want to hear about, well, why the hell are you taking SMS? It's hitting on 5s. You can't spot for it because both targets need to be able to see. The spotter and the guided need to be able to see the target, so you're hitting on 5s. Potentially, if you're split firing, you're hitting on 6s, so it's trash. Why are you taking it? And it's strength 5. It doesn't ignore cover save. It doesn't deal damage. Wrong. If you're thinking like that, wrong, 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 wrong. So, what do people do when achieving certain secondaries? They'll have, every army will have some sort of what we call action monkey. Take, I don't know, Chaos Knights, these take some Nurglings. In Marines, you've got Scouts. You've got Tau that might take some Kroot Hounds. Eldar that might just have a small unit of Rangers or Swooping Hawks. Guard might just use some Rattlings or like a small Guardsman squad. And the list goes on and on and on. Everybody takes cheap units to achieve basic secondaries. Necrons might take Scarabs. All that kind of stuff. So that profile of Strength 5, twin linked, so rerolling wounds, is really efficient at picking up small MSU scoring pieces. So I thought, okay, we've got the Hammerheads. They have 1 free reroll to hit. So if I'm not shooting the railgun because I'm staging them, I can reroll a 2. Okay? How can I boost the efficiency? The total SMS I have in my list is 35. Something to note, it's annoying, and I hope it's fixed in our codex, but the SMS is different depending on what body it's on. So Longstrike has 2 sets of smart missiles that have 4 shots each, that's 8 shots. A Hammerhead has 2 sets of 3. A Devilfish has 2 sets of 2. Breach teams with a support turret has 2 shots. Riptides have 1 set of 3 shots. So you've got 9 coming from the Riptides, ignoring all hit modifiers, hitting on 4s. Then you've got 8 from Longstrike, hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s if they're near Shadowsun, and this is something that I chose to take because I wanted to boost the rerolls with the SMS. So Shadowsun gives an aura, 6 inches of reroll 1s. Then I've got the Devilfishes, which will have 4 shots, and if they're staging, okay, I might not have everything around Shadowsun, but the majority of the time I could keep at least a couple of Riptides, the Hammerheads around Shadowsun, just to kind of reroll those 1s, and with the free reroll to hit with the Hammerhead targeting array. Then you think about the range. So 30-inch range can get you to most staging points in the game. And think about Eldari. Going into T3 Elves with Strength 5, twin linked, is very efficient. Drakari, Scourges, really good guns at trying to take down Riptides, but if you can just kill 2 or 3 of those a turn, you don't have to worry about their incoming damage because you're crippling them. And any units that you're crippling, like Swooping Hawks, Scourges, small T3 Elves, small T3 Guard bodies, the moment you make them go below half strength, they're taking Battle Shock tests, which then forces them to potentially spend CP as well. So if they are relying on this 5 Swooping Hawks doing all of their actions, if you kill them, great, they're dead, they have to use another resource. But if you don't kill them, they have to roll Battle Shock. And then, do they really want to spend a CP on auto-passing for points? So you're pressurizing them on their scoring, not looking at it from a damage perspective. So let's move on to Guard, shall we? So Guard have these big units of Cassacrin that can do Melter Mines, they've got the Grenade Strats, they've got decent shooting, they'll be hitting on 2s, they've got Plasma, they've got Melter Gun, they've got a Plasma Pistol, they've got the Lasgun, Hot Shot, Valley Guns, whatever they're called. Decent amount of output for a very cheap unit. And not only that, if you kill them, they just spend 2 CP and bring them back with all of their equipment again. That is an attrition war that you cannot win. They will come at you and go, alright, kill me, you have to. You kill them and they go, I'm back again, and they come back. And if you happen to overwatch them, which is a mistake by the way, they will just come back in their reinforcement step. So it's bonkers. They will just have all of this damage coming from their infantry units that will just keep coming back should you kill the unit. So what does SMS do? So I practiced it with Nassim, I practiced it with a few other Guard players as well, and I just whittled down each Cassacrin unit to like 2 or 3 models, force them to take Battle Shock test, and then if they do fail Battle Shock test, then I kill them, because they cannot use the regenerative strat to bring them back, because they're Battle Shocked. So the SMS was my solution to dealing with Eldar, dealing with Guard like I explained, but also putting pressure on any opponent with their scoring units. Take another example, Custodes. I agree, my SMSs are doing nothing to Custodes. But what they are actually doing is that 5 Battle Sister unit, or whatever you have, the Prosecutors, that are at the back of the board holding your home field, yeah, they're dead. So what are you going to do? Are you going to put a big unit back holding the primary? I don't think so. But you're able to pressurize the opponent's scoring, which is crucial. So, that is a kind of a roundup of the list. Why railguns versus ion cannons, somebody might ask. Well, and why hammerheads? And they're just cheap. 140 points for Longstrike, who has a better ballistic skill. So if you have a look at Longstrike's, let's have a look at his datasheet here. It'll probably be like the last one I find. Not really planned this. Let me have a look. There we are. Longstrike. So, hammerheads have the Armor Hunter. So, you add 1 to the hit roll for monsters or vehicles, which is great. Longstrike, because he's a better hammerhead, but doesn't have the hammerhead keyword, he hits on a 3 with his railgun. So, if you're shooting a monster or a vehicle, you'll be hitting on 2s. And then you can also basically spot for him, and then he'll be effectively hitting on 1s. So if they've got a minus or they pop smoke, doesn't matter, you'll still be hitting on 2s. And then you've got targeting rate. Each time this model is selected to shoot, you can reroll 1 hit, or you can reroll 1 wound when resolving its attacks. So it's important to note with Shadow Sun, if you do roll that 1, you don't need to spend your CP, and you don't need to spend your free reroll with targeting array, because you just reroll 1s when you're next to Shadow Sun. So then you roll a wound, let's say you get unlucky, and you roll yet another 1. Not a problem, you've got that free reroll there. And then let's say you get that through, and you're feeling quite happy with yourself, and then you roll the damage, 1. So it's d6 plus 6. And you're thinking, I want a bit more than that. Well, you can always do a CP. And then if you re-rolled it with a CP, and let's just say you get lucky and you roll that 6, that's 12 damage. Longstrike's already near Shadow Sun, so then you roll another dice to see if you get a CP back on a 5+. So there's nice synergies within Shadow Sun and the hammerheads. So in my honest opinion, if you're taking hammerheads, you need Shadow Sun for that reroll 1s aura, because it helps boost those shots that you're getting and make them connect. The other thing is, God forbid it's turn 3 and you roll a cheeky 6 to hit, because sustain hits 2 with a railgun suddenly becomes a monster. So there's always that threat of rolling that 6. And do you know what's really funny, actually? Sometimes I've actually re-rolled a hit. So I rolled a 2 and gone, yeah, I'm going to re-roll it just to get a 6. Because you're doubling your, almost doubling your chances of getting that 6 with a re-roll. It's a risk, but sometimes it's a calculated risk. And he has the XVO2 pilot battlesuit. Now, unfortunately, he's not a hammerhead gunship. He doesn't have the hammerhead keyword, so he can't give this buff to himself. But you can pick another hammerhead gunship within 12, and that until the start of your next command phase, ranged weapons by models in that unit have the lethal hits ability. So, okay, a lethal hit with a railgun, probably not worth it. But the SMS that I was talking about before, well, suddenly you got lethal hits, so any 6s that you roll to hit are just automatically through. This is great for picking off MSU units behind a wall, whatever it is. It's really good. If I was to take more than just long strike and a hammerhead, I'd probably put an ion cannon on one of the hammerheads just to make use out of the more shots, because the ion cannon, if you assume you're always going to overcharge, it's blast, it's D6 plus 3, it's strength 8, AP 2, 3 damage. With lethal hits, that actually becomes really interesting. And if you happen to combine it with Tetra rerolls, you could fish for those 6s. So actually the iron cannon can be quite good at anti-tank, but also give you a solution to big infantry blobs with it being flat 3. Terminators hate it. So it's another variant. And again, remember, hammerheads are only 130 points. Long strike is 140 points, so you're paying 10 points extra. You get his XVO2 pilot battlesuit edition, and you also get a railgun or ion cannon that hits with 1 more ballistic skill, because a hammerhead is actually ballistic skill 4. So with +1 to hit and +1 ballistic skill, it becomes hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s with Shadow Sun, and then if you have a smoke, you're hitting on 3s with reroll 1s, which is still really good. And then you can save your reroll to, if you roll a 2, obviously you're forced to reroll it on the hit, but most of the time, statistically, you won't roll the 2, and then you'll save your reroll for the wound. So I went in really heavy with the SMS, and I went in with 2 dedicated anti-tank units, aka Long Strike and the Hammerhead. They have better movement, so I was able to play around those angles that I mentioned. I could have a Hammerhead here, I could have a Hammerhead over here, I can kind of move into position and shoot. So they gave me a little bit more tactical flexibility with a movement 10 rather than movement 5 of broadsides, and they were quite durable. So I really found great success in the concept. And what I'm planning to do is I'm going to be doing a Q&A session within my Discord for everybody, paid members, free members, doesn't matter, where people can ask me questions and really kind of engage the community on how I use the list versus the matchups that I had and some of the successes in a bit more detail. But today I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the list, the actual event itself, and I was really impressed with it. And nobody saw it come in. They thought, oh, this is an unusual list. And spoilers, the placings, let me load it up. Your boy took SMS and Hammerheads and Long Strike to a very successful 2nd place. So the only game that I lost was against the eventual winner, Josh Roberts. Hats off to Josh. A very, very clever Necron list that had no Catans, was just loads of stuff. And as you can see by his points, he absolutely smashed it. Out of 600 available points, he got 585. I lost to him on round 4, 89 to his 100. But very clever guy, very clever list, and he actually works with the GW for the balanced data slate, so let's hope he gives Necrons a bit of a nerf bat and leaves Tau alone. But Space Wolves came 3rd, and that was the list that almost beat me. It came down to a nail-biter move, which I'll go into on the next call, and I managed to 2nd place with something that I'd never taken before, a new concept, but I'd analysed the meta, I'd looked at the pack, and I'd planned. And the key thing is, if you fail to plan, your plan will fail. And don't be afraid to test new stuff. And I hope my list has kind of given inspiration to others to maybe try something that you've not tried before. And SMS is definitely something that will help you against all of these annoying little things that you can't interact with. You can't interact with a unit behind a wall unless you go and send a resource out there to deal with it. Well, guess what? You no longer have to send that resource. You can just SMS it. And I think that is something that we've been sleeping on, including myself. And it was only until I was forced within my own brain to kind of go, stop it with a crisis, stop with this, put it all to one side, test something new. We've got a new codex coming up. Let's try other variants of lists to see what we can do. And the possibilities clearly, are endless. Our index is very, 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 very deep, and it's very strong. And right now, Tau's doing very well. If you look at the stat check data after this weekend, there was lots of other events that happened with Tau, and overall, it was 32 Tau players, or 28 Tau players, and 32% of those 28 players went X and 1. So if it's a 5-round event, they went 4 wins and 1 loss. If it's a 6-round event, 5 wins and 1 loss. That's what I did, 5 wins and 1 loss. And that's 32% of them did that, and that's really good to see. The other thing as well, there was lots of different Tau lists. There was one by a Tau player, I think it was James Hobbs, at the South Coast UKTC Major that came fourth with 6 broadsides. There was another list that had a flex of different things, and I can't quite remember it, but each Tau list was different, and that just shows the power of our index. And don't be afraid if you are worrying about your tetras. I didn't take any, and I didn't need them. If you're worrying about the crisis suits, you don't need them. And I've got another list that I'm planning for in the Manchester Super Major that's going to happen at the end of this month. That's also going to be different. So, that was my alarm. So, be creative, don't be afraid of change, and if you really want to know more, come and join my Discord. There are multiple options. There's the free community, and I'll put the links in the description below. Come and join, have a look at what's on offer. We do have a couple of options if you want to sign up to the Patreon, where I can go through advanced kind of tactics, help you with your deployment, help you with your scoring. I think for me, I love interacting with the community as a staple. It's part of why I do this. Obviously, I'm doing it as a full-time business, and I do really appreciate the support that I get. And I wouldn't be here talking Tau with you without that level of support. But what you get from me is you get my time, my energy, and my expertise. I want to know those barriers that you're struggling with. I want to be able to help you overcome them. And by giving you things like list inspiration, different ways of using units is what I'm about. And if you want to take the most bang for your buck, the Shasspray and the Chassel are perfect packages to help you build on your current journey and help you overcome those barriers. Your Pathfinder is your entry level if you want to see what it's about. They're all affordable, so if you're interested, there will be a link below, and also I will still be keeping my code active, which can give you 10% off of any of your first sign-ups. So, click on the link below, and also please help me out. Like and subscribe, comment, get that algorithm going for me. But I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please come and join in my Discord, because I'll make an announcement of when the second part of this video is going live, and it will be Q&A where you'll get to interact with me and ask me all sorts of questions about the matchups, about the list, you name it. Come and join me. I'd love to have you. So anyway, guys, for the greater good, have a good evening or good day.